Good day, my name is Justin Dwarka, and today I'll be presenting on the history of the Steelpan, co-production of Trinidad and Tobago, and its national instrument. Before I get into the Steelpan, I'd like to touch upon co-production. Co-production is a science and technology studies principle focused on the dynamic interaction between technology and society. Co-production occurs with the emergence of new technology. The technology impacts the society in which it was created, while the society evolves along with the technology, and vice versa. The steel pan is a fixed-pitch percussion musical instrument of the idiophone class, traditionally made from a steel oil drum. It has a metal surface with convex notes separated by grooves and bores. The steel pan produces melodies when struck with rubber-tipped wooden pan sticks, and is currently the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago. The Peace Preservation Act of 1884 banned Africans living in Trinidad and Tobago from the use of their native African drums. As a result, young black youths needed an outlet for musical expression. They gravitated to work in typical East Indian musical celebrations where they could beat drums illegally, because while African drums were banned, Indian drums were not. Due to racial tensions, East Indian community would only allow the lowly Africans, as they saw them at the time, to beat the least revered drum. In this case, this was a dole bass drum. It was played by striking it with two sticks and was considered a smaller drum. This style was eventually adopted for the steel pan and is credited as one of the first introductions to familiarizing young Africans with beating drums in this style. The origins of the steel pan can be traced back to tambour bamboo. With African drums banned, the old tradition of tambour bamboo resurrected. Hollow bamboo tubes cut into various lengths produced different sounds when struck. There were three main types of tambour bamboo: the bass boom, which utilized stouter reeds, the folds, which used shorter, narrower reeds, and the cutter, which was struck on the ground. The folds could be struck together with other folds, struck on either end, or struck on the ground. This sound was very prominent at carnival parades and other musical festivals. Soon, other improvised forms of percussion, such as bottle and spoon, scrap metal, tin cans, even metal dustbins and other metal instruments, became a very popular form of percussion, which was utilized in the tambour bamboo bands. So it was no wonder that the progression of tambour bamboo to metal was so natural. The first recognized steel pan appeared in Lord Kitchener's Beat of the Steel Band in 1946 Carnival. The first steel pan is credited to Winston Spree, even though his pan only had 14 notes. And he performed there throughout the carnival season. Spree's pan had notes which bulged outwards into a convex shape. Ellie Manette improved the acoustics by reversing the process. Surface sunk into concave shapes as a note was stamped into convex shells. Manette also added rubber tips to wooden pan sticks. The social construction of technology. The social constructivist views a STS ideology that knowledge is created based on interactions with other people. It rejects the idea of inevitability. However, just because an object is socially constructed does not mean that the credibility of the existence of the object should be undermined. Instead, it should draw attention to the societal forces which influence how we feel about this object. This social construction of technology is a belief that the views of technology those views that we have on certain technology is based on relevant social groups. In other words, social groups have their own interpretation of how technology should be used and developed. The social construction of the steel pan. Throughout the Trinbagonian community, different groups had different ideologies of how the steel pan should be used. Young black youths saw the steel pan as a potential source of employment and musical self-expression. Also, after facing fierce rivalry from centuries of deprivation, this fueled competition, and the steel pan offered an outlet for this competition. It was also a symbol of pride and militancy. Winners gained fame and recognition. It was also an avenue for the proliferation of the warrior spirit. The middle class, however, saw it completely differently. They saw the steel pan's association with poverty and violence, and nothing more. They banned their children from using the instrument, which of course the lower classes followed, and eventually got the steel pan banned from the Calypso King competition in order to prevent life endangerment. In conclusion, the socially constructed notions about the steel pan were based on people's own socioeconomic position and personal interaction with the technology. In coming time, there was lots of political support of the pan, and this was spurred upon by leaders who came together for peace. After being banned from the Calypso King Festival, Albert Gomes was one of the first political activists who spoke out, and he spoke out in particular for the rights of illiterate and semi-literate people. He also voiced heavy concerns about the negative connotations that people had about the steel pan. Eventually, this led to the formation of the Steelpan Association in 1948, which followed up by the first national steelpan competition in 1950. The biggest political supporter of the steelpan was the late Dr. Eric Williams, leader of the People's National Movement, the PNM. He set up communities to end these violent feuds and encourage businesses to sponsor bands. This turned out to be very encouraging because bands would only be sponsored if they were completely free of violence. This helped both the steel bands and Dr. Eric Williams. He gained lots of political support, and steel bands gained recognition, fame, and money. This led to a rapid development of the steel pan industry. This influx of cash led to huge developments. Tuners could afford to make a living. They made proper mobile steel arrangements for steel bands, and these even had roofs, which could allow them to play throughout any weather. The mobility of these steel arrangements also allowed the bands to move freely. Anthony Williams, during this time, created the spiderweb design for the pan, which became the model for all successive pans and helped to establish a standard. William also created the most popular pan, the tenor pan. Throughout this time, there was a creation of many new pans, such as the extended cello, triple tenors, guitar, and up to 12 bass. The co-production of the steel pan and Trinidad society is clearly shown. Just like how societal forces caused the steel pan to grow, the proliferation of the steel pan changed Trinidad society. Only 1 year after Trinidad and Tobago gained its independence, the first panorama competition was held. Steelpan extended throughout all socioeconomic classes and communities, regardless of race, color, creed, or religion. And as such, a mutual sense of identity helped to heal fragmented portions of society. As such, the steelpan became the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago in the 1990s. These are my works cited. Thank you for your time.